Let's go ahead and take a look at the ServiceGuru Timesheets and Expenses add-on for ServiceM8. This add-on provides you the ability to manage staff time and expenses in one central location. This is a great tool for recording parking fees, relevant job expenses, as well as labor time and pay rates, and output this into a report, which you can take into account, for example, for payroll purposes. For the purpose of this tutorial, let's first see how this works in practice, after which we'll have a look at our settings and how to create a report. So let's go ahead and open our job card and open up the Timesheet and Expenses add-on from the add-on tab. In this window, we are prompted who this expense is for, and in this case we want to insert it for Joe Soap, so we're going to click Next. The system will then ask what type of expense you would like to add, and it will display any expense types that you've already set up. For this tutorial, we've already set up an expense called congestion charge, parking, as well as ad hoc. Let's have a look at how we can add a parking charge. So we're going to click on parking. This will then ask for some details relating to this charge. First, we've been asked for the amount, which we're going to say £10. Then we have an optional time field, which when our staff member went to the job site was on the 4th at 7:30. Finally, we have the option of adding an attachment should this be relevant. This, for example, could be a receipt from the parking charge. For the time being, we're just going to go ahead and add this expense. As we can see, this expense has now been added to the job, where we have the option to either edit it by clicking the edit button or removing this by clicking the X. Let's go ahead and add a few more expenses that we incurred on our job. We're going to go ahead and click Next. Now we're going to add a congestion charge. We're going to follow the same process. And this is going to be £20, which we incurred on the 4th at 6:10. In this sense, we also don't want to add a file, so we're going to go ahead and click Add Expense. Finally, let's have a look at adding an ad hoc expense. As we can see, this follows the same suit, except in this instance, we also have the option to add a note. This is something that you can select in your settings, so we'll have a look at this in a moment. So while at the job, our staff member went to go purchase some lunch. So in our note, we're going to add lunch, which was $5.50, which they had on the 4th at 10 o'clock. Let's go ahead and add this expense. Now that we have added all of our expenses, let's take a look at how we can add any labor that we may have incurred on this job. So let's close this and head to our Quotes and Invoicing tab. As your staff check in and out of jobs, the system will automatically compile the job time here. Now, if we would like to edit this time, add any missed time, or bill for our time, we're going to click here, which will open up a new window for us. Here, we can see time that has been incurred while on the job. For this example, let's imagine that our staff member had to go back on site after hours to conduct more work. So let's go ahead and add more time by clicking the Add Time button. Here we get to select our date, which in this instance was the 5th. We can select our staff member if needed. We can select our rate. In this instance, we're going to select our overtime rate. The start time, which in this case it's going to be 8 p.m. And finally, we're going to select the amount of time we would like to add. So we're going to select an hour. Let's go ahead and save that and reopen it. Now, if we would like to bill this time to the job, we would click on the green plus sign. As soon as any time has been billed, The Timesheets and Expenses add-on is able to extract this information, including the labor rate, as well as the time incurred. So let's go ahead and build these by clicking these. We'll click Save. And as we can see, the time has now been added to our quote. Now that we have added all of our expenses and our labor, let's take a look at how we can create this as a timesheet and expenses report. So we're going to save this job card and head to our add-ons tab. And here we're going to select timesheets and expenses. Before we create our report, let's take a look at some settings we have available. So we're going to go to the settings section here. Here, we can first select the date to base our report on. With this, we are defining from what point onwards the system should take into account any added expenses. We have a couple different options here. For example, job created date, quote date, work order date, job completion date, unsuccessful date, job payment date, and recorded date. As an example, if we selected job created date, this would mean that our report will display any expenses that have been added since the job creation date. For the purpose of this example, we're going to choose the recorded date. Next, we're presented a variety of different job fields in order for us to select those details that we would like displayed in our report. For this example, we would like to display the job status, so we're going to click on this toggle here. And we would like to display the job category, so we're going to click on this toggle. Now that we're happy with our settings, let's go ahead and create our report. So we're going to head back to this report section here. Here, we get to select our staff member. In this instance, it's going to be Joe Soap. And then we get to select our date range for which to run our report for. We're going to select from the 1st of August to the 31st of August. Finally, we're going to click Run Report. As we can see, the system has created a report for us, including some basic job details, the fields that we had selected to appear in our report, as well as the breakdown of any expenses that we have added. Below this, we also have a summary table, which includes any labor time added on the left-hand side, as well as all the expenses and labor that we had added to this job, followed by an overall total. Now, if you'd like to extract this information, we have a couple of different options. We can choose to copy this information, download this as a CSV file, download this as an Excel file, or download this as a PDF. Now that we have seen how to create a report, let's take a look at how we can create our expense types to add to a job. So we're going to navigate to this expense type section here. Here, we're going to click on the New Expense Type button. Here, we can provide a name for our expense type. In this case, we're going to say lunch voucher. And we can choose whether we would like the staff member to add a note alongside their expense type or not. For this, we would like to add a note. So we're going to go ahead and click Create. Now we can see lunch voucher has been added as an expense type. Here we can also select to edit by clicking the Edit button, or we can click the red X to remove it. And that's it for the Timesheets and Expenses add-on. This is a great tool for adding and viewing any expenses you may have incurred in the job, as well as extracting time information as well as labor rates assigned to your staff members.